Hello, my name is Jessica Felix, and I am doing my mini experiment as well as research on child-directed speech for Video Blog 3. Now, what is child-directed speech? It's also known as motherese or baby talk, and it's a type of speech that's used to communicate with infants as well as children. So what we see in this type of speech is use of exaggeration and intonation, which would be higher pitched voices. Also, we do see the vocabulary being more composed of slower talk and sounding out of words such as hi. So for an adult we would say hi, but for a child or an infant we'd most likely say hi, how are you today? And also it could consist of made up words such as like baba for bottle or um, other words like that. So a very interesting research caught my attention behind this. And Vera Kemp and Patricia J. Brooks got together and they conducted a research in 2001 where they compared the diminutive frequency for child-directed speech between three languages. So it's cross-cultural, and which is why I thought it was very interesting. So they chose these languages due to the direct effects on gender acquisitions. So it exhibits, different types of productivity. And what they thought was that child-directed speech could be detrimental for morphological development. And if it was the case, then we would see it a lot less. It was noun-based, so you would see a lot less of diminutive speech towards children in the German language. Now, the procedures that they used, they really got data from Childies that was conducted by Childies, and they got one German speaking, one Russian speaking, and one Mexican or Spanish speaking girl. And the nouns were selected from sessions and they were matched for the different noun types in mother speech in each language. And that was at a year and 11 months, at 2 years, and at 2 years and 4 months. So there was 3 sessions. And the nouns that were being used by mothers that when they were talking to their children were coded as diminutive or non-comminative. So they were measured in 2 different ways, type frequency and token frequency. And type frequency is it refers to the proportion of diminutives among distinct nouns regardless of the frequency, and token frequency refers to the proportion of diminutives among all nouns regardless of the noun type. And so the results, the number of diminutive noun types were much smaller for German mothers as it was for the Russian and Spanish mothers. So they used a lot more diminutive speech for the Russian and Spanish mother. Now, the relation is reflected for the children in all 3 speeches, and much more diminutives were demonstrated by Russians and Spanish, as I already said, which provided evidence that diminutives are used more in languages that led to transparency and more phonological and gender marking as well. So these 3 studies I thought were really interesting. So there was a study in 1970s, and it investigated how middle-class adults speak to children in comparisons to other adults, and there was differences found in the pitches, in the intonation, as well as the restrictions of the type of conversations they had with them. Also, a study in 1985 by Anne Fernald provided evidence that prelinguistics they prefer child-directed speech to adult speech when communicating, and that was also, that was done in the University of Oregon, I'm sorry. And then the third was conducted by 2 experimenters in which they conducted this research in 1997 and concluded that inverts are better able to segment items out of speech when child-directed speech is being used to communicate with them. So my little mini experiment is because previous research has mostly looked at mothers and females type of speech directed to the children. Now I don't know if that may be for data collective purposes or for biases or whatever it may be, but I wanted to know if males do the same thing as far as changing their voices and using longer words while speaking to children. So I want to know if there's a difference between males and females communication with infants and children. And so what I did was I went ahead and got 2 females and 2 males, and I used a teddy bear as they as they used for an infant. Now, there was 2 older and 2 younger males and females, just to see if there was a difference. And so my procedure was pretty simple. I simply asked to treat the teddy bear as if it was an infant, I didn't tell them, oh, you have to communicate with the teddy bear. I simply just told them, here, hold it, and interact with the infant. And I compared the speech with the kind of conversations and speech that they use when speaking to me or speaking to the other people in the office as well. And so the independent variables were males and females, so whether they were males and females, and the dependent variable, it was the speech directed to the infant. So depending on whether they were male or female, if their speech changed. Now the results, I really didn't find any differences. It was really funny to see that no matter what age or gender you are, we all still tend to use that same kind of communication for infants and children. So they both changed the intonation. They used high-pitched voices. They exaggerated facial expressions with the big mouths and big eyes as they were speaking to the teddy bear, aka infant, and the repetition of words and sentences were used by males and females. So they were like, oh, so cute, or hi, baby. And they all pretty much did the same exact thing. So these are just pretty much my references. I looked at 3 different studies, and so hope you enjoyed.